Welcome to this edition of Access Together. These shows are made possible through the combined efforts of Shelby County Schools and GHS-TV. The shows are hosted by the members of the community and utilize the staff and facilities of Germantown High School. If you would like to watch our live stream or get more information about these shows, log on to our website, ghstv.org. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the following presentation.
Welcome to Let's Talk Money. We thank you for tuning in with us today. My name is Kelly Bolton, and each month on Let's Talk Money, we explore subjects that affect our city and our lives. In life, really two things are certain. That's death and taxes. In addition to paying taxes throughout our lifetime, we may even have to pay taxes upon our death. We would all much rather pass our wealth on to those that we love rather than to the government. Today, we're going to discuss the many ways available to help you in this area. So joining us in this discussion, we're thrilled to have with us Mr. Matt Rhodes. He's with the Bailey Law Firm. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kelly.
I appreciate it. I made a comment that most people would, I think I said all people would rather pass their money on to their loved ones than the government. Just a quick question. Have you ever had anybody that said, no, they want it all to go to the government?
That's generally not the case.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I made a true statement. I know that some people don't have family and they like to pick the charity of their choice. And I guess in some cases that could be a government entity. But we talked right before we started the show, and you were saying you went to undergrad here in the South, and then you went further south down to Texas for law school and got out, you said, in 2007?
That's correct.
Is that right? Great. And then I guess you jumped right into estate planning law? I
did. I've been practicing for about 10 years now, generally estate planning and probate.
Okay. Well, that's a very interesting area I have found in that with estate planning, you're dealing with people on a very sensitive topic. Most people don't want to talk about death. And if they don't talk about it, then their family's left to deal with it at their death. So either way you cut it, you're dealing with kind of a sensitive area. Before we kind of dive into the deep stuff, can you tell me what are some of the most basic estate planning documents, the things you hear about, wills, powers of attorney?
Certainly. So when we're talking about estate planning, we are essentially talking about the anticipation and arrangement of the disposition of our property upon our death and the care of our body up to our death. And so what we're talking about are a few key documents. We have a document that governs who gets what regarding our stuff, and that's our last will and testament. We have documents that appoint agents to act on our behalf if we become incapacitated and can no longer do so, and those are power of attorney documents. And then finally, there is a living will or an advanced care plan, which is essentially a document where we make decisions concerning our end-of-life bodily treatment. If I'm in a coma, do I want artificial life support? Those kinds of questions.
And I think that's important. I find that a lot of people get confused on a will versus a living will. They think they have one and it's not the same as the other.
That's correct.
And I think those end-of-life decisions are important. Also, I've found, and I'm sure you do too, that a lot of people think if they have a will, that covers everything up until when they die. And they don't realize that the will doesn't come into play until they die.
That's exactly right. A will has no legal effect until a judge admits it to probate and says it is your last will and testament.
And to go to probate, you have to have died.
That's correct.
Right. Which kind of leads me to my next question. What is probate, and how long does it take? How expensive is it? And can you avoid it?
Sure. So probate is the court process when someone passes away, where we have our will admitted before a judge. The judge now knows what we want to have happen to our estate and who we want to serve as the executor of our estate and make sure that the wishes in our will gets carried out. It is a court process. At a minimum, it will take 4 months, and it can sometimes take a couple of years, maybe longer. A basic probate administration is going to be a few $1,000s in legal fees and a few $100s in court costs. Mm-hmm. And as far as avoiding it, there are several strategies to avoid it. Sometimes instead of doing a will, we are going to use a trust as our primary estate planning vehicle. And a trust is a little bit more complicated, but it is an estate planning method that avoids the court process known as probate. We have to remember that probate only pertains to probate assets, and we can have non-probate assets. Non-probate assets already have a means by which to get to the intended beneficiary. So for example, if I have a life insurance policy and my wife is the beneficiary on my life insurance policy, that beneficiary designation trumps the will, it supersedes the will.
What you just said is key. I have talked to many people that don't understand that a beneficiary designation actually trumps the will. They think the will trumps the beneficiary designation, and sometimes that doesn't work out so well if you had a third child and you didn't add them, or you have an ex-spouse that you intended on not leaving money to and you wanted to leave it to a child, or
That's
so on and so forth.
Correct. Yeah, we see that a lot actually. There will be an ex-spouse listed on an old life insurance policy that we forgot about.
Right. Well, you know, and you mentioned kind of what I find people think is a scary word, trust. I mean, they think about that being for the Rockefellers or for the, you know, the extraordinarily rich. And it seems complicated. For some reason, the word trust, you know, instills in people this sense of fear, panic, complication, you know, expensive. But you're talking about using all types of trust, a living trust versus a will, let's say. So what is really the difference in the living trust versus a will?
Well, a trust, it is more complicated. It's going to be about twice as much in fees to get a plan like that in place, but you are going to save the fees on the back end when you avoid probate. The big difference with a trust is that there is a step two. I don't just dump a trust document in your lap. We actually have to fund the trust, and that means we have to retitle certain assets like our residence or our savings account into the name of the trust, as opposed to just leaving it in my personal individual name. And that way, the trustee of the trust, who's the person that governs the assets within the trust, knows, based on certain triggering events, what to do with that money when that certain event occurs.
All right, so a little bit more expensive, a little bit more difficult to set up, but on the back end, you could probably save a lot of time and money in certain circumstances. And so I want to make sure we don't run out of time before we have to take a break. And I want to talk to you about veterans benefits, because there's not a lot of people in our community that understand veterans benefits. But of all people, I think that we should, as a society, take care of the people that have served our country. So I know we've got maybe 60 seconds or so left before we're going to take a break. Can you give me just a little bit on veterans benefits and what we need to know?
Certainly. Well, there's a particular kind of veterans benefit. It's called the improved pension benefit, and it's more commonly referred to as aid and attendance. And it is a cash benefit that ranges between $1,000 and $2,200 a month for wartime veterans and their surviving spouses to help reimburse them for the costs of their long-term care, whether it's assisted living, nursing care, in-home attendance, and that kind of thing. We do have to qualify financially, and we can certainly help people do that, but it can be a real benefit to certain families.
Well, and that's a lot of money that if a family doesn't go to someone that's an expert in getting those benefits, that they could just totally leave on the table. And it's my understanding that there are certain things that you can do that might be simple that allow you to qualify.
That's correct.
So, great. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to take a closer look at elder care and the many financial choices that seniors need to make.
It's the one time of year when the bargains come to you. Germantown High School Television's Auction 2018, right here on GHS-TV.org. Bid on great items like theater tickets, restaurant gift certificates, artist prints, and much more. Online bidding begins April 14th, and be sure to tune into the live broadcast hosted by members of the community, alumni, and students. Saturday, April 28th from 2 to 5 p.m. on GHS-TV.org. All proceeds benefit GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student TV station. Bid online and don't miss your chance to win.
One of the things that sets us apart from other schools or other productions that are doing this is that our kids are 100% in charge of what they're doing.
We sell the ads, we build the stage, we make the costumes.
Working in this environment,
I've learned to appreciate everything that's given to me because not many high schools have programs like this.
When I first started in this program, my first musical was Hairspray. And now, 4 years later, I'm in my last musical, The Mystery of Edwin Drood. And looking back, I think I've progressed a lot.
To see them now as seniors and to see the people that they have become, it's changed me more than I think it's changed them.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Money. If you're just tuning in, I am Kelly Bolton, and today we've been talking about the importance of estate planning. And on this next segment, I'm honored to have with us Angie Pettinger with Agency Services. Her company helps seniors navigate complicated issues such as Social Security, Medicare, and a whole lot more. So with that, please join me as I welcome Angie to the show. Angie, thanks for joining us.
Delighted to be here, Kelly.
Good. I understand you've worked with Matt, who we had on our, right before we took a commercial break. You've worked with Matt before.
We've worked on several projects, yes.
Good, good. Well, tell me about Agency Services. What do you guys do? How do you help those in the community?
We are a Memphis-based brokers general agency, so our customers are typically financial advisors and other insurance professionals. Our mission is to bring insurance solutions to help their clients manage their diverse risk management needs. So part of our role is also to educate insurance professionals on various insurance programs so they're better designed to help their clients and cultivate relationships. Right. So basically, Kelly, whether we live too long, die too soon, or get sick along the way, we help plan for the what if, so you're prepared for the what is.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Well, you know, we were talking about some of the things with estate planning that get scary. Well, while you're alive, I think one of the things I talk to people and find that they're the most scared about is when they talk about Social Security, when to take their benefits, and Medicare. I mean, and there's so many myths of Medicare. And maybe you could tell me first, what is the difference between Medicare and Medicaid?
Well, let's talk about Medicare first. And first, a disclaimer. I am neither employed by nor endorsed by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. I am simply a licensed insurance professional with knowledge on Medicare planning. So Medicare is really a federal insurance program that provides health insurance benefits to those people age 65 or older, or in certain circumstances under the age of 65 with certain disabilities, end-stage renal disease, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Okay. And then Medicaid is not the same thing.
It is not the same thing. Medicaid is a program that's designed for those with low income, low asset, medically needy.
Okay. Which is important because I think people sometimes get the Medicare, Medicaid confused.
Absolutely.
So we talked a little bit about some of the myths. What would you say is the biggest myth of Medicare?
Well, that Medicare is easy to understand and that you don't need to plan for reaching Medicare age. That is a huge myth. So there's several parts to Medicare. There's original Medicare Part A, which is inpatient hospital coverage, skilled nursing facility, hospice, and some home health care. There's original Medicare Part B, which is medical insurance, doctor services, outpatient services, durable medical equipment, and some home health care as well. There are Medicare Part C, also known as Medicare Advantage plans, and those are plans where actually you combine the benefits and services of original Medicare A and B, and most of the time they include D, drug coverage. Those plans are run by Medicare-approved private insurance companies who abide by set Medicare guidelines. Those plans sometimes include additional services, maybe not covered under Medicare A and B, but sometimes at an extra cost. And then Medicare Part D is the fourth part of Medicare, and that's Medicare prescription drug coverage.
Well, that is a lot. No wonder people need to plan. So how do you go about planning for Medicare? I mean, you got to figure out the difference in A, B, C, and D, obviously. And then what do you do next? I mean, how do you even know where to start?
Well, most people, unless they apply for under 65 with certain disabilities, become eligible for Medicare when they reach age 65. So one myth is that, I will automatically be enrolled in Medicare when I reach age 65. That's certainly not the case. The only people that are actually automatically enrolled in Medicare A and B are those people that are receiving Social Security benefits or railroad retirement benefits.
So if once you get Social Security benefits, you said you're automatically enrolled.
If you're drawing Social Security benefits prior to reaching age 65, you'll automatically be enrolled. You'll receive a Medicare card, red, white, and blue card in the mail about 3 months prior to the month of your 65th birthday.
But if you hit 65 and you're not receiving Social Security benefits, then you're not automatically enrolled.
You are not. For those that are not automatically enrolled, you have to take action to enroll in Medicare. And knowing when to do that, what to enroll in, how to do that, is all part of the planning process. So thinking about that about 6 months prior to reaching age 65 is a good idea to be able to plan for whether you need to enroll in Medicare A and B, do you need to add C, do we need D? Those are all things that have to be thought through, and there are various enrollment periods. So if you don't enroll when you're first eligible, your initial election period allows you to start the enrollment period 3 months prior to the month of your 65th birthday, the month of your birthday, and 3 months after your birthday. That is your initial election period into Medicare. Now, you may choose to wait until after your initial election period is over to enroll in Medicare, but you would only want to consider that if you fell under a special enrollment period, which would mean you're currently working and have group health coverage based on your active employment of you and or your spouse. That would give you a special enrollment period immediately following the initial enrollment period. And some reasons you may want to wait to enroll in Medicare is maybe your group coverage is working just fine for you, you're very comfortable with the premiums you're paying, you don't want to add Medicare at the time. You can add just Medicare Part A and opt out of B and add it later. You could enroll in A and B during your initial election period or any time during that special election period. When you're new to the program, it's very difficult. There are lots of decisions that have to be made, and those decisions are made on a variety of different factors. And those factors will determine when we enroll, what we enroll in, and how we enroll.
Wow, that's a lot. And I know it's not free because you have to pay for Medicare. So we're going to pause for a short break, and when we return, we're going to continue our conversation with Angie Pettinger and Matt Rhodes of the Bailey Law Firm. So please stick around.
It's the one time of year when the bargains come to you. Germantown High School Television's Auction 2018, right here on GHS-TV.org. Bid on great items like theater tickets, restaurant gift certificates, artist prints, and much more. Online bidding begins April 14th, and be sure to tune into the live broadcast hosted by members of the community, alumni, and students. Saturday, April 28th from 2 to 5 p.m. on GHS-TV.org. All proceeds benefit GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student TV station. Bid online and don't miss your chance to win.
Hello and welcome to Cable Quiz, the academic.
Do you know how incredible it is to work at a TV station in high school?
GHS-TV is a student-run television station.
There's so many things you can do here at GHS-TV. You can be in front or behind the camera or both. You have that opportunity. There are no limits.
Well, we have sports and we have news and we have entertainment. So the students here get a well-rounded view of what it's like to be in the TV field.
It's my life. It's what I want to do.
From all of us here at GHS-TV, thanks for starting your morning with us. For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Money. During this final segment, we have Mr. Matt Rhodes with the Bailey Law Firm and Angie Pettinger with Agency Services as we address the most pressing financial concerns facing our seniors. Thank you guys for coming back for the third segment of our show. While we were taking a break, we were kind of talking about some of the things that you guys have worked on together. And we talked a little bit about the difference in Medicare and Medicaid. And obviously, Medicare is an issue when somebody has certain financial resources. When someone is Medicaid, there are some financial difficulties that have faced their lives. And then those people sometimes have the option of having some additional benefits for nursing home. And we've talked about how sometimes people might call you about Medicaid and you've referred it over to Matt. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So maybe tell us a little bit about kind of what happens when someone is Medicaid eligible. And obviously when you're Medicaid eligible and you're needing to go into a nursing home, most of the time you're not capable of navigating that process. It's usually a family member. So tell us what happens.
Well, sure. Well, the main difference with Medicaid is the benefit that it provides is the ongoing custodial care that we require in a nursing home facility, which is long-term care, and that's different than health care. We have our Medicare for our health care, but that Medicare will only pay for up to 100 days, I believe, if I'm right, of rehabilitation. And then the question becomes, how do we pay for our long-term care? We talked a little bit about veterans benefits and the benefit we can get through the VA, but that only goes so far. It's a limited amount. Medicaid is a little bit different. Medicaid will essentially pay for the cost of nursing care over and above what your income can pay for once you otherwise qualify.
So I guess to kind of make sure I'm understanding this for our guest, if you have limited financial means, or you can create an environment where your needs are limited financially. We could debate the pros and cons of that all day long, but in some cases you could qualify for veterans benefits, and sometimes you may have plenty of money and still qualify for veterans benefits for long-term care. But in addition, you might qualify for Medicaid benefits, but it's important to kind of navigate and understand how to do that. I hear people talking about trying to ensure that they don't have very much in assets so that their parents or they might qualify for Medicaid or for veterans benefits. And I know we could debate that topic all day long, but what are your general thoughts on that? Because it seems to me it's kind of a slippery slope.
Yes, both benefit programs are means-tested benefits provided by the government, so that does mean that we have to financially qualify, and they do have relatively strict rules as to how much we can have in the bank. Medicaid, for example, will only let us have $2,000 if we're single. If we're married, there are some protections for the spouse. The veterans benefit, we can still have between about $50,000 and $80,000. There are things that we can do sometimes to accelerate our eligibility for the veterans benefits. For Medicaid, we have to be very careful because they will penalize you for certain transactions that might disqualify you for benefits.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know, because I think everyone has this desire to maximize their government benefits after all these years of putting money into the system, which kind of gets me back to our Medicare question. If someone is approaching this, where do you advise they go to get help navigating the decision-making process of A, B, C, or D? And, should they stay with their current coverage with their employer? Should they not? Should they supplement one versus the other? I mean, where do they even start?
There are lots of insurance professionals and financial advisors that are educated in the Medicare insurance planning. And if they're not, they actually have a very good resource that can help their clients along the way. So there's, again, lots of decisions to be made. Thinking the process out about 6 months prior to age 65 is a good idea.
Well, that's important to know. I wanted, when you're talking about kind of all this planning, I think a lot of times nobody wants to talk about death and dying, and nobody wants to deal with anything after death and dying. So really, we've kind of got both of you on the show, which both are dealing with, Matt, your job is obviously everything leading up to death and dying, making sure if something happens to you, somebody can step in, and then trying to make sure that you have the maximum benefit to all the resources when you potentially need them. And then your wishes are followed through at the end. And then I guess, Angie, kind of your area is insurance, Medicare, that sort of thing, which is the protection of all of these assets that we spend a lifetime trying to accumulate and trying to maximize benefits. And it just gets really sometimes so overwhelming, I think people throw up their hands. So maybe Angie, could you speak to, and then Matt, you as well, of the importance of having their financial professionals work together in a team, whether it's the CPA, the attorney, their insurance professional, their financial advisor?
Absolutely. We all have professional alliances, and we work with CPAs and financial advisors and other professional that actually refer people to us to do a complete analysis to determine cost-wise what's the best avenue, when to apply, when to wait to apply, and what are the penalties if you don't apply in the appropriate time frame. So we work with a lot of people in the community to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Matt, what about you?
We find that a lot is lost in translation when clients are trying to tell the one professional advisor what the other one has said, and so oftentimes we do recommend putting us in contact with each other so that every professional advisor can do their part. There's plenty that I know, and then there's plenty that I don't know, and so it helps to have the team on board.
Well, I think that makes sense, which kind of leads me to something else that I think is important. I call it kind of getting a car but not putting gas in it, and unfortunately we've got just a little bit of time left. People do wills, they do trust, and then they don't do anything else. They don't change their beneficiaries, they don't fund the trust. So it seems like they got this great vehicle, but they didn't do anything with it. Can you comment on that, Matt?
That should, in my opinion, that should be part of the legal process that the attorney is hired to make sure they do, is see it through to the end. And so it should be handled, and then we recommend, reviews maybe every 2-3 years to make sure that everything's still what we think it is.
Right, so that they don't add a new asset and they forgot to change it.
Exactly.
What about you, Angie? When someone is trying to do a plan or try to determine what to do with Medicare, what do you find is their kind of car with no gas issue, if you will? Like, we just have just a few seconds left here, but is there anything that people get almost there and they just never finish it?
They really get overwhelmed with all of the information available regarding Medicare and Medicare insurance planning. So I think sometimes they work really hard on it to begin with, and they literally just get so overwhelmed. When you get to that point, that's when it's time to reach out to your financial advisor or your insurance professional and find someone to help you lead you through the path and work through the maze.
Well, that's great. Well, thank y'all both so much. We really want to thank Mr. Matt Rhodes with the Bailey Law Firm, as well as Angie Pettinger from Agency Services for being with us today. For more information on our show, you can check us out on the web. It's at GHS-TV.org, where we're streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. We hope you will join us again next month on Let's Talk Money.